Hey, deserving listeners, Darcey and Stacey. Let's see what happens and see what comes out of my face as I watch.
Yeah, I love my wife, but this is my rules. I'm the husband. Stacey's supposed to listen to me.
I don't want you to make me feel like I can't enjoy my life.
So
I didn't do anything wrong, and I did respect you.
You're going to respect me, Marcel. You don't have choice.
What the hell is your problem?
I don't know what's happening exactly. I think there's a lot of context that we don't know about because we're not with them all the time. So from the surface, it looks like Florian is saying, at least among certain topics, because it does seem like Florian is flexible regarding traditional gender roles in certain instances. Like, for example, Stacey said, you know what, I'm going to choose the venue and I'm going to buy it because I earn the money and you're just going to have to deal with it. And he didn't, at least on camera, seem to reject that notion too much. We don't know. But at the very least right now, he's exhibiting this notion, and in an interview and also to Stacey, that he believes because he's the man that he can control her and tell her what to do. I suspect that he has an insecurity about Stacey doing certain things like being on a stripper pole and other kinds of things that they've been talking about. And he doesn't know how to talk about it, so he is just putting his foot down, so to speak. Stacey, it's not going over well with her because I'm guessing she just doesn't want to be in a relationship like that, but maybe also this is indicative of a lot of behaviors from Florian. I don't know. The way that they're talking, there's a possibility that Florian behind the scenes is a lot worse in this area, and Stacey is using the cameras as a way of trying to confront him on this or something. There's also a possibility that this behavior is really quite odd for Florian, and Stacey's like, where is this coming from? I don't know. I just can't really tell.
You changed. You're not the same Florian that I married, so you need to stop right now.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to dance. I'm allowed to be me.
And it's possible that for Florian, and we've seen this before on these shows, that when you get married, there's a different set of expectations that for some people they don't think is going to happen. It's like, well, before we got married, you were fine with this. Why are you not fine with this after you got married? For some people, it's a totally different relationship after getting married. I don't know if Florian is exhibiting that. There's a possibility.
Shush.
I don't control you and you don't control me.
What the you don't dance in that? You're going to
sit me down.
The yes, you are.
Wow. So it looks like she threw the engagement ring back at him. That's what it looks like. And it landed in his shirt, which is interesting. I don't know why that's interesting, but it's just like a lucky shot, I guess. And if this is the end of their relationship, then yeah, I guess it makes sense. I doubt that it is. And we saw this with Natalie throwing the ring at Mike all those years ago. And I talk about this in general, like you might have a notion during a conflict, a big fight with your partner that you want to divorce and then or break up, and you'll be like, maybe we should get divorced. And then, a week later after you've recovered from the conflict, you no longer feel that way, and you have a pattern of having that thought emerge of wanting to leave the relationship. But in the end, you don't really want to leave the relationship. And that's just something to take note of and to remember the next time you have it in the middle. And it depends case by case. In some instances, we might actually think that the impulse to leave is actually the healthy side of the individual. So it kind of depends. But it's not uncommon for a pretty healthy relationship during times of stress for one or both people to temporarily think about an escape. There's just like, I don't know how to get out of this. I don't know how to resolve this, to become very pessimistic. You might even see your partner as all evil or never loved you, that kind of thing, because you're being triggered, or it's just hard to see that in the midst of conflict. And then you have these natural thoughts of, maybe I shouldn't be in this relationship. And in the moment you act on it or you say something, and later on you don't resonate with it. And maybe you have 6 months of relatively low conflict and you're like, I don't even know what I was thinking in that moment. I can't believe I thought I wanted to divorce them. So in those instances, it's better and more healthy to refrain from having those impulsive statements or throwing the ring. I'm going to take a guess and say that Stacey still wants to marry him and still wants to be with him, but at the very least doesn't want to just end the relationship right now. And the problem with this kind of communication or expression or impulse is that for Stacey, if she eventually recovers and takes the ring back, for Stacey, having thrown the ring, it might not be very damaging to her, but it could be very damaging to Florian. Because from that point forward, under conflict, he could be terrified. It could push Florian into a position of like, well, I don't want to get into a conflict because she might suddenly leave me like she did that one time. Or it could cause a lot of anger and resentment and pain for Florian, a worry that maybe all along she wasn't really interested in marrying me. And thus, from that pain, maybe he distances and da-da-da. So it's something to think about and manage. If you have a pattern of that in your relationship, it takes very little to say something like this or to express yourself that way. But the downstream effects of that impulsive behavior can be way overblown beyond what you would imagine would happen in the moment. Because I'm thinking for Stacey, like I said, in all likelihood, she still wants to marry him in the end and still wants to be with him. And for her to do this, it's a way of saying, I don't like the way you're treating me right now. And she's hoping that he will receive it as such and change his behavior or something like this. But it's possible that literally for the rest of their relationship, Florian, every day or every week, this will reemerge for him of like, remember when she did that? Does that mean she doesn't really love me? It's a lot to deal with ongoing. It's similar to infidelity. People will cheat, and one of the most universal things that we find among cheaters is that they will say, I had no idea how much harm cheating would have on this relationship. I just thought it was not great, but I didn't think we would be talking about it 15 years later. I had no idea how hurt my partner would be. And it's because we don't talk about it enough. Also, we can be narcissistically oriented and not really think outside of our own shell, if you will. And so this is kind of in that zone of 15 years later, Florian could still be hurt and upset about it. And Stacey might be like, that was so long ago. I don't even understand. Like it was only for a day that we fought. Like, yeah, I did that, but I don't, you're holding on to it. We need to really understand that it's possible that these kinds of impulsive behaviors can be very, very hurtful, way more hurtful than you might imagine them being. There's so many other options that Stacey had in this moment. She could have walked out. She could have said, we need to take a break. I have some serious thinking to do. Or I can't believe that you're saying this. I don't appreciate this. There's just a lot of different things she could have said. To do this, though, could be really damaging because in a relationship, we, thrive when we trust each other, when we believe that the other person truly loves us. The fact that I feel very comfortable in my relationship with my wife is because she's never done anything like this at all. I'd like to think I haven't either. We've never done something like this, even when we've been in conflict, even when I'm guessing there have been thoughts along these lines, I'm guessing, but we've never thrown a ring. We've never said, I want a divorce. We've never suggested maybe we shouldn't be together, even though those thoughts go through your mind. There's nothing wrong with having those thoughts, but when you say it, it can have so much more weight than you mean it to have.
I know that she still cares about me and she still loves me. A couple weeks ago, I was in Miami for some real estate stuff with friends, and I called Darcey, and we hang out, have a couple of drinks, and me and Darcey hook up.
It doesn't justify Georgie doing what he had been doing, but it certainly contextualizes it. Again, just because they hook up doesn't mean that gives Georgie the right to bulldoze and touch her without her consent, but it certainly complicates things. And maybe Georgie even, I don't know. So let's say that Darcey's like, I'm done with Georgie, and she's drawing all those boundaries. Georgie is pursuing. Eventually, she agrees to meet up, and they have some drinks, and let's just even say that she absolutely wanted to do that. I'm not suggesting that he assaulted her, but maybe she was intoxicated and woke up the next morning going like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. You fall into a certain routine, particularly when you're drinking, and one thing led to another. But let's just say that she woke up the next day and was like, yeah, actually, that was good. I'm glad we did that. She still has the right to say, we're done. I don't want to see you in what we saw on this show. And Georgie has the right to be upset about that and hurt, but it certainly doesn't give Georgie the right to do the things that he has been doing. And it's a classic sexist, misogynistic thing. It's just like, well, you had sex with me one time, so that gives me the right to pester you and invade you and stalk you for the rest of your life because one time you consented. You know, one consent does not equal a lifetime of consent, obviously. Now, is there more there? Because Darcey hasn't talked about this. Have there been other communications that have been confusing to Georgie? But even with that, it still doesn't justify in the moment him really trying to pressure her and following her and bothering her and ruining the bachelorette party. Like it doesn't justify that, but it does contextualize it a little bit.
And we have good night together.
Are you for real? You and Darcey like hooked up?
Yeah.
Oh. I don't know. For me, shocked to be honest. I don't know.
You have keeping secrets that me and Darcey a couple weeks ago in Miami we hook up, and nobody know about this.
Okay, a couple weeks ago, and this is the day after or soon after the bachelor party, or are they back in Miami now? I don't know. Where does he live, Georgie? At least this is recent, a couple weeks ago, according to Georgie. Maybe all this is one big lie. Maybe Darcey will say, no, that never happened. But I suspect that he's telling the truth, but who knows? A couple weeks ago, and in terms of the timeline of what we've seen, it's hard to know because they do a lot of things that I have a feeling they film for a short amount of time, but then string it out for many episodes. It's just my sense. Also, that would be more economical. If you would, it'd be a lot more expensive to send a crew out repeatedly to film different things. But I don't know. So it's possible that this hookup happened in the midst of a lot of other things. And I don't know. Maybe Georgie has something to say here in terms of, she told me that when we were together that she would have to act like she wasn't into me because she was afraid of Stacey yelling at her, or she was worried that the show was going to, the fans would judge her. And so I had reasons to believe that even though verbally she was telling me that she didn't want me to be there, I knew in her heart she actually did want me to be there because she told me so. I could see something like that. I still wouldn't necessarily justify what he did, but I doubt that's true. I doubt that she said anything of the sort to him. Earlier today, the twins were informed that their dad suffered a stroke and was rushed to the hospital. Well, yeah. It could mean a lot of different things, but it could mean very serious complications. It could be the beginning of the end for some people. It could be a minor inconvenience for some. So it's just a lot. I guess they don't know because it was earlier in the day, and usually later in the day you wouldn't necessarily know what the long-term picture is. Okay, well, that's promising, I think. I'm not a medical professional, but from my anecdotal layperson experience, I would say that being discharged that day would indicate that there's a better prognosis, but who knows?
Crying doesn't help. What helps is clear thought, clear direction, clear strategy. Not crying like I'm on my deathbed.
You and mommy and the kids.
Well,
I don't have anyone else but you.
stop it.
You're stressing them out, though, right?
Stop it.
Okay.
Don't stop crying.
Don't cry.
All right, so it sounds like it was a mini stroke, according to his doctor, and maybe that means the prognosis is a lot better than it could have been otherwise. And it is important to raise awareness about stroke and the signs of stroke because early intervention, from what I understand, will often help. So there's that. The twins are crying, and the dad is repeatedly saying, don't cry, it's not helpful. So, I often rant about my thoughts on this, but I will say that it's possible for the dad that he's going through a lot right now, and he doesn't want to worry, or he doesn't want people worrying, or he doesn't want to go down that emotional road because he's right now trying to figure out what's going on. That's his way of coping. So in this instance, if that's how he feels, if he wants to, look, you can cry on your own, but I can't really have that around me right now because I'm actually trying to hold things together. It's great that you cry. It's great that you care. It's normal, but I can't really deal with that right now. Maybe that, but it just sounds like normal shaming of crying.
He's gonna cry. My dad's everything to us. To hear that he's struggling and slurring his words and feeling off balance and not thinking straight is very scary. He's the patriarch of our family, always been the strong one. We're gonna come home.
Don't come. You know.
All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.